Yeah, beautiful people. How you doing? It's your girl Shonna Etienne. I am ultra excited to be here, although I think this is a very depressing topic for me. Damn, it's depressing. But we're talking about entropy. And as it relates to black men, if you don't know what the word entropy is, I suggest you tune in today because we are going to learn the word entropy and how it refers to our black men. But before we get started, I just want to say hello to everybody. Good evening. This is a very excited weekend for me because tomorrow is my 40th birthday. Yes, baby. I am an Aquarian. Yes. It is my 40th birthday tomorrow, and I'm back in school, completing my last 4 months of school, graduate in May. So I'm like, oh my gosh, but that's a story within itself. Yeah, so I have everyone coming on. Hey Noel, how you doing? Hey Charles, great to speak to you daily. Hi Abdul, how are you? Sonia, Earl, I'm glad you guys are checking in. Walaikum assalam, Abdul. Listen, guys, hey Sonia, I gotta tell you guys this, that we are gonna only go over a few sections of this chapter, but once again, in this chapter, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is mentioned again. Man, we got to start looking at these signs, people. I'm telling you, we got to start looking at these signs. But, people don't like to look at them. People, their brains have been whitewashed. You got to start looking at these signs. But this brother here, we are still in the book, Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, written by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. And he is a Christian brother. And once again, another Christian brother is giving props and recognition to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and all the work that he's been doing. Listen, you ain't gotta like him. I love him. You ain't gotta like him. But let me tell you something. You can choose not to like somebody. That's up to you. But you cannot deny success records. You cannot deny results. And so when he gets into that, man, look, it's deep. So we're about to get started. Hey, Christine, somebody said you look great for 40. Yes, I am 40. I am 40. I am 40. I am excited for my birthday. Yes, I am. But I am 40. And thank you so much for saying I look great. My bones tell me otherwise. But I do thank you for that. I really do. And you know something, people, as we're about to get started? I want you guys to know, and it's going to sound like kind of like corny because I'm not a motivational speaker, although people tell me I motivate them, but that's not my intention. Black folk don't need motivation. Black folk needs the blueprint. We need the know-how, how to do things. So I'm going to say this. If anyone has a vision for them to pursue whatever goals they want in life, do not make excuses because excuses will only block you. I had my eldest child, and I got pregnant my sophomore year of undergraduate. I had her in my junior year. I graduated in my senior year. All 4 years I did it. I even breastfed my daughter for her first year of her life. And the only thing, or the only people I had to help me with her, was my ex-husband and our friends from college campus. That's about it. She came to class with me. I did what I had to do. I breastfed her in class, and she became my motivating factor for success. That was in my undergrad, my bachelor's. When I went on to my first master's, I was pregnant with my son. I was pregnant with my son with my first my master's. I gave birth to him in April. I came back and graduated in May. Then I went directly into school in September for my second master's. Don't ask me why I did two, but I did. I went back into school for my second master's when he wasn't even a year. He was a few months, and I breastfed him for the first year of his life, and I did it. Now that I'm completing my doctorate, after this weekend, I got 3 months. Woo, woo, woo. I'm excited. 3 months until I get my doctorate degree. And I did that with my 4-year-old. So when I went into my doctoral program, he was 1. He was 1. And I breastfed him for the first year of his life. So ladies and gentlemen, whatever you desire to do, you can do it. But you have to believe in yourself. And it doesn't mean that it was easy for me. It doesn't mean that it was easy. My second master's, I was going through a divorce. Okay, my big start of my doctorate degree, I didn't know my marriage was going to survive or not. I'm just being transparent with you guys. But at the end of everything, one thing my friends, my families, people who watch me, people who personally know me, and even if they just watch me on social media, one thing they all know is that when my blinders are on, my blinders are on, because you don't know what life would throw you. And the only thing I had was my own security to make it. So I'm going to say to you guys, whatever you want in life, you can succeed, no matter the obstacle. Don't think about the obstacles. Just think about your success. That's about it. There go my godson. Hey, Malik. There go my brother. What's up? What's up, Nick? You watching from New Jersey. That's what's up. Yeah, brother Farrakhan is the last man standing. Absolutely. Charles says, hi, Shonna from California. I just want to ask you one question. Do you know the next book we're going to be reading? And if so, yes, I do. I do and I don't. But I will announce it after this. Assalamu alaikum, Marva. How are you? Hey, Stephen. Good evening. How are you? So let's get going, guys. So he starts off by, and where I'm going to start off at, we're going to start off with Minister Farrakhan, because all the other stuff before, y'all already heard it, so I'm not going to keep repeating it. He says, I remember watching Minister Louis Farrakhan on the Donahue show several years ago, and the issue came up about the 1.5 million African American males involved with the penal institution and the $18,000 to $38,000 that America spends annually, dependent on the state, to incarcerate each of these brothers. 1.5 million African American males. For one to go to jail, to go to prison, it costs American taxpayers anywhere from $18,000 to $38,000, dependent on the state. You got to understand, even though it's costing the American taxpayers $18,000 to $38,000, somebody is making a profit. Black men, your life is valuable in the government's hand. Okay? Let me say that again. Black men, your lives are valuable in the government's hand, because every head, they have the potential to make up to $38,000. And that was back in 1986. I need somebody to fact check that for 2018. What does it cost to send one of my black men to prison? What does it cost the taxpayers? So here's what happened on the Donahue show. Here's what happened. This money comes primarily from middle-class taxpayers. Farrakhan looked out at the audience, because you know the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, he is bold like a mother. He looked out at the audience in their faces, and he said, you know our track record, talking about the Nation of Islam. You know that Elijah Muhammad did with Malcolm. You know what we can do with these brothers. We can turn an addict into a minister, a criminal into a security officer in a housing development center. We can turn a brother that has never worked, and this is the truth, I kid you not, you guys know I used to be an NOI, so I can kid you not. Here's the truth. Here's the truth. A brother who has never worked a day in his life will sell 1,000 newspapers, 500 bean pies, and 200 pounds of fish a week. Let me tell you how bad. Let me tell you how bad the Nation of Islam is. Let me tell you how bad they are. As we sit up here and complain, they make things happen. A lot of people don't know this, but they grow their own food. A lot of people don't know this, but they order their own fish. They have their own meat market, and it's pure for how they eat. A lot of people don't know this, but they make it happen. A lot of people don't know it, but there's a lot of Torchlight Academies everywhere with their own schools. Maybe one's very successful high school in Chicago, but there's a lot of little Torchlight Academies in a lot of different spots, educating their own. A lot of people don't know this, but the fellas out there, they provide security through security contracts. Let me tell you, when I tell you they bad, they bad. You may not know they bad, but I know they're bad. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? And basically, Minister Louis Farrakhan looked a white audience in their face and spoke about the track record. See, this is no secret. A lot of people know this. A lot of people know this. So why is it that we have the American government would rather send men to prison that will cost the taxpayer upward near $38,000, as opposed to going for true reform or rehabilitation. Why? Why? Who knows? He said, white America, why don't you give them to us? You don't want them. You don't know what to do with them. You are spending billions of dollars to incarcerate them. And then he smiled at them and said, and all we want is a couple of states. That's why they won't give it to them. All we want is a couple of states. America doesn't mind sending African Americans to boot camp programs, but why won't America give these brothers to Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam? If the objective is to balance the budget, that's what they always say, right? The objective is to balance the budget. Wouldn't it be cheaper to give him Georgia or Alabama? What benefit does America gain in paying $18,000 to $38,000 per person for 1.5 African Americans, and the wasted productivity of the Marlon Taylors, people who graduate out of high school and don't do nothing with their high school diploma, who are lying in their bed or standing on corners wondering what to do with the rest of their lives? Check that out. Check that out. See, that's deep. I see somebody got a link in there. That's what I'm talking about. But that's deep. That's deep. So you got to know that there is a conspiracy here. There is a reason why. There is a reason why black men or black males are not being reformed. There's a reason why they're not being properly educated. There's a reason why they're not being properly trained and with employment. There's a reason why they still have high dropout rates. There's a reason why they still have unemployment rates, high unemployment rates. There's a reason for all of this. But a lot of people don't want to hear this because they don't want to believe what the truth is. Unfortunately, it is the same thing with humans. Oh, let's talk about entropy. So after he says this, he goes on to breaking down what the word entropy means. And he basically says that entropy, it has to do with mechanics, right? Mechanics. And if you don't take care of the system, the mechanical system, if you don't take care of it, it will break down. And not only will it break down, the mechanical system will cause havoc to all the other parts and eventually its own part, which will cause the machine not to work anymore. And he said when he started to analyze what the word entropy really means, that is ENTROPY, when he started to analyze what it means, he started to apply it to the black man. So this is what we're about to discuss. Unfortunately, it is the same thing with humans. Every human has a purpose. And if humans are unable to achieve their purpose, they too will cause havoc for all the other people around them. So if we don't take care of our black males and our black females, or anybody, regardless of race, right? But I'm only talking to my black people for a second. If we don't take care of black males, if we don't take care of it, eventually that portion, that part of the community is going to break down. And if the black male breaks down, he's going to wreak havoc not only on the community, but himself. So he becomes a tax to the community, American society, and he becomes a tax to himself. So he compared that to entropy, because we have to be able to take care of our cars. Our mechanics, think about our cars. If you know it is time for oil change and you neglect to change the oil in your car, it can destroy the mechanics of your car. It can wreak havoc, and it's going to wind up causing you more. It's going to cost you more money if it breaks down than it would have if you would have just changed the oil. The same thing when it comes to black men. Same thing. The major purpose for men is to economically provide for and protect their family. If men are not allowed to provide for their family economically, they will begin to cause havoc on all other men around them while simultaneously causing damage to themselves. The assumption that crime is based on need would imply that the poorest people in America should be more actively involved in crime. So it's funny that I even read this in this chapter today, Because in class today, we were talking about addiction. Addiction, like substance addiction, sex addiction, whatever the case is, addiction. And what the professor was saying in a nutshell is if there is a need in a community that's not being met, right? If they're isolated from resources, if they're isolated from finances, education, healthcare, you name it, you're going to find higher cases of addiction. Now, I already know that there's systemics that goes into that, but I choose not to argue with my professors because I've learned over the years when I try to educate them on the institutionalized racism and the institutionalized white supremacy, they don't like to hear that. So I've learned to keep my mouth shut so I can finish May 2018 and just be done and be happy. So I learned, even though it kills me to do it, I learned to keep my mouth shut. But here's the thing. What Dr. Kunjufu is saying is, that is the theory that they sell us. That's the theory that they sell us. That if there is a need in the poorest part of the world or the country or the city, the state, it doesn't matter, then the people that are in that area should be more involved in crime. That's what they sell us. If that was the case, the black woman, see, we're talking about if you strip someone of their resources, their financial means, their ability to make ends meet, their ability to provide for their family, their ability to be able to get to and from work so they can keep their lights on, so they can keep their apartment, their house, whatever. If you are telling me that when we strip them from their ability to do that, that's when crime increases. That's what they want us to believe. So basically what he's saying is if that was the case, then black women should be committing crime in greater numbers than anyone else. Think about that for a second. A lot of black women carry a lot of weight on their shoulders. Okay, I know we've been talking about this for some time now, but a lot of black sisters hold down the fort. They are married to men who may not have the same educational levels that they have, who may not have the same finances that they have, who may not have the same resources that they have. Not all, but a lot of them are. That's just the reality. A lot of them are left with children with no fathers present to help them raise these boys. A lot of them are. So if we strip somebody of their resources, what they're saying is crime is supposed to increase, then why aren't black women out there killing people? Why? If that's the theory. The reality is there are in excess 1.5 million African American males that are in prison, while there are less than 70,000 African American women, or 10% of that total. There is 1.5 million African American males in prison, when there's only about 70,000 or 10% of that population of African American women. The myth that crime is based on the need could easily be dispelled with the reality that 80% of the crime in America, check this out. So this is the lie that they tell you, but the numbers don't lie. So the narrative is going to fit the narrator's story, but the numbers will never lie. Because 80% of the crime in America is white collar crime. That is computer embezzlement, savings, and loan scandals. White collar crime. But you see, it's all in how crime is reported. It's all in how they report crime. And I'm glad I'm even talking about this today, because I posted earlier today that I'm always educating my black boys on what the reality is in the system that we live in. And I have my 13-year-old son watching the Kalief Browder story with me. Here it is, for those of you guys who may not remember the story of Kalief Browder, and I know a lot of my people on here do, but let me just let you know who he is. At 16 years old, he was arrested and charged with a crime he didn't commit. And many times when our African American males are brought through the penal system, they are they are forced, in but so many words, to take a plea. They are convinced that it's better to take a plea than it is to try to state your innocence. But Kalief Browder chose not to take a plea. It took the city of New York, those wicked bastards, 3 years before they drop the charges. Did you hear me? Drop the charges. That means we have no evidence. We have no proof. Even though the justice system says you have a right to a speedy trial, 3 years is not speedy. 3 years is not speedy on Rikers Island. This boy has been subjected to so much torture in the 3 years that he was in this prison system. You see, I have my son watching stuff like this on purpose because it's great. My son's seen Hidden Colors. My son's seen Art of Darkness. My son's seen 1804. My son's seen Roots. He's seen so many things, and that's great. That's great. I have my son seen about African kings and queens. That's great. But also he has to understand the reality of what this world is right now. And our black men are being picked up, beat up, charged, murdered. It's crazy. So we have to let people know what the reality is. And the truth is, they will have you believe that it is the black man, the black woman, and the Hispanic population who are the criminals, where in fact, there is more white collar crime than there is anything else. But they know how they put it on the record. There's so much white collar crime that goes into New York City, but how can you explain that it is barely any white faces in Rikers Island? How can you explain that? But if you let them tell it, they have an answer for everything. In our Crime Watch group, we had a long discussion about a part of our race that is so frustrated about their economic options that they would enter not work at all or choose illegal means to take care of themselves financially. They would rather not work, but choose illegal means to take care of themselves financially. Many older African-American men don't understand the issues facing younger African-American males. Let's talk about this for a second, because there is an age divide between our African-American older men from our African-American youth. There's an age divide, and that is dangerous in our community because even the older men, they look down on the younger men. See, there aren't much mentorships going on. Every time I ask somebody for a mentorship program for my son, they give me emails addresses, they give me phone numbers, they give me websites, but when I call, the number don't work, they don't return emails, and the websites don't tell you nothing. Right? People are very inconsistent. So everyone has a complaint about these younger black males, but hardly no one is stepping up to do what they have to do to help these black males out. And another thing about the older generation, they don't take into consideration that when they were younger, when they were the black males' age, society was a lot different. See, it was an industrialized society. So it was not uncommon for people to work in factories, for people to manufacture cars and stuff like that. It was not uncommon. That doesn't exist anymore. These jobs have been shipped overseas. So where does it leave our young black males, especially when they are in school being taught things that are irrelevant to their life circumstances? The curriculum don't make sense. I've seen so many schools when I was growing up. I don't know about you guys. I mean, y'all already know how old I am. But when I was growing up, there was home ec, there was shop, there was different things that people could do, vocational skills. Because if you were not going to go to college, if you were not going to go into the military, you needed to have a skill set. But they're not teaching these things in the schools anymore because there are no jobs here anymore for that. They all been shipped overseas. So when we have the older black men looking at the younger youth, they're looking at them in disgust. But check this out, old men. You can always remember your good old days when you was in your 40s and your 50s and you was making things happen. You can remember your good old days when you retired, you had your nice benefits, you bought your husband, your wife a car, you sent your kids to school, what have you, whatever. And then it came a time when you retired from that white man's job and you had nothing to pass down to your son. That's the reality. So you can look down on these young brothers as much as you want. You can do that all day. But the reality is you got to take some accountability and some responsibility for setting our males up for failure as well. You have to do that because you have nothing to pass down to your kids. You see, a white man can pass his son down a house. A white man can pass his son down a job. a skill, some stocks, some bonds, some life insurance policies. But what are we leaving our black males? What are we leaving them? We got so much to say about them. We're so frustrated about them. And I'm not saying what we say about them is not correct. Yes, I'm tired of the crime. Yes, I'm tired of the drugs. Yes, I'm tired of the gangs. Yes, I'm tired of incarceration. But just saying we're tired of it with no solution is not good enough. It's not good enough. So I say to my elders, my elderly men, what have you done to set up your young brother for his future? Or was you so concerned about securing your own? Because if you were, that's an individualistic way of thinking. That is not your culture. Again, like I said, it plays on our subconscious. The system plays on our subconscious. We don't even know what is working. We don't have to do anything. Every day we wake up, the system works against us, and we're not even aware of it. Everybody is so interested in getting their own dollars, setting things up for themselves that they don't think community. Now that the community is sick, everybody got a complaint, but hardly no one has a solution. And that's the problem. So you sent your young brothers off to school and they got a little education. And some of y'all are just so proud that your son and your daughters went to HBCU. I'm glad. Good for you. But who are they employing? Who are they employing? See, what's the sense of having all this pride if you're not even bringing it back into your community and creating jobs for your people? What's the sense? And I'm not here to criticize anybody. Trust me, I'm not. But we got to be solution focused. We got to be solution oriented. We always want to say what we doing for self, but what are we doing for the community? But see, I can see all the people that don't know me. They're just logging on to the virtual book club tonight. And they might say, well, what is she doing for the community? I have an organization and I employ people. That's what I'm doing for the community. I educate, I train, and I teach people. That's what I'm doing for the community. I raise funds for scholarships. That's what as a matter of fact, you can buy your Black Panther tickets to the movies because we having a scholarship fundraiser for the Black Panthers. I'll put the link on my page. Check it out. But the point is, that's what I'm doing. And even when times get hard and I scratch my head and I say, damn, these insurance companies don't reimburse me fast enough, I still make sure I pay my staff. Because I'm feeding families. See, it's not about me. I may have went on to college to white universities, but I brought that skill set back. And I came back home and I said to self, how can I do my part to change the Black community? So yes, I can talk. And I will talk and I will check our Black males, our older Black males that have not set up the younger Black males to be employed. See, you have him expecting a white man to give him a job, but when a white man sees him, he sees him as a criminal. He sees him as delinquent. He sees him as defiant. He sees him as unemployable. It is our job to employ our own, but we always get mad when somebody mistreats us and we want to call out racism. You got racism against your own people for not setting them up for success. Stop asking these people for stuff. If you get a job with them, cool. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But you should be able to provide for your own community. But everyone's excited that they got their own retirement. Everybody's excited they got their own pension. And your priorities are not in order. Your priorities are not in order. You died and you left so much debt on that house that your kids can't even make that house into a profit. Because you took out mortgage over mortgage on your house. And now the house ain't even worth nothing because the mortgage is too much. So they can't even do nothing with that property. You died and you had insufficient life insurance policies. So now your body got to stay in the morgue for 30 days while they ask the family members for money to bury you. Starting their GoFundMe accounts. Ridiculous. But we quick to point our fingers and talk about somebody else. We quick to say what little Ray Ray and them doing, them knuckleheads. But what are you doing to help change Ray Ray? See, back in the days when I was growing up, the men spoke to the boys. The men organized the boys. All of us on the block, both girls and boys, all of us on the block was in a PAL. And it was Black leaders that led us. Everybody on the block was organized to take bus trips to Great Adventures, Sesame Place, the shopping malls, bus trips, just so we could all be together as a family. I'm 40 years old. I lived in that neighborhood since I was 5 years old. I can go back there right now and all the scenes are still there and know exactly who I am, and that block has changed. When I was growing up, the reason why you think that we all related is because we grew up like family. Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, blacks, doesn't matter. We grew up like family. It wasn't uncommon for us to sleep at each other's houses. It wasn't uncommon for me to be downstairs at my girlfriend's house on the 3rd floor to 3 o'clock in the morning because we were all like family. And we made sure we protected each other. You don't see that anymore. Everybody is scared to say something to the youth. But you have women out here that's not afraid. They rolling up their sleeves and going into community talking to these young boys, trying to change their lives. We can't do it without you. So when I'm being disrespectful, I'll say man up. Within the context of the term entropy, it has been said that your most productive economic years will be 20 years after your formal education. 20 years after your formal education. So that is when you graduate high school at 18. They're saying your most productive years would be 20 years after. So by the time you get about 38 years old, you should be in your most productive years. But we know as it relates to our young black men, that is not the case. That is not the case. 38 years old and a lot of them still struggling. Still can't keep a steady job. See, it's not how it used to be back in the days when people retired and they got their pension. Now, in order for you to get that, you got to be on law enforcement. You got to be a CO, a PO, a police officer, a firefighter. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. But here's the truth. Here's the truth why that happens. White Americans are convinced that if you follow the American rules, you can live the American dream. So we raise our kids to follow the American rules so that they can have the American dream, right? What's the American dream, people? 2.5 kids, a house with a white picket fence, a bank account, and 2 cars, right? That's the American dream. This is what we raise our kids to believe. It may be true for our black females, right? But when it comes to our black boys, oh boy, there's a conspiracy working against them. So when you find a man that's just employed, forget gainfully employed, most sisters get happy that he has some type of stable income. Because we know the American dream does not apply to them. That's just the truth. Now, I'm not saying all of them, but we look at the macro level and we look at the unemployment rates and how high it is for black males, we understand that this applies to more of them than few. Unfortunately, nonconformity is now being sold to African Americans. Nonconformity. Specifically African American males. What do I mean when I say that? I'll tell you. It used to be that the youth believed that if you secured a good education and worked hard, there would be economic windfall at the end. That was the old tales. This is 1986. 20 years later, it still stands the same. How much change have we gotten? That's what they used to believe. If you go get an education, you work hard, you would experience financial success. That's the OKeyDoke they sold you. Today, our youth believe that nonconformity may be more lucrative option. Many African Americans, especially African American males, now believe the better options are not in better education and working hard, but in sports, or rap contract, or a drug dealer. Because that is the OKeyDoke that an American system has set up for our black males. That is what's being sold to our youth. You better believe it. It's cool to be a rapper. It's cool to play football or basketball. It's cool to be a drug dealer. That is what is glorified, even in our TV shows. See, we think all these things are innocent, but all these things are by design. And because we lack consciousness, we always miss it. We miss it until it's too late. Then we want to march. Black man, I charge you. I charge my older black men for setting it up for our younger black men to be successful. I charge my older black men and mentoring our younger black men so they can be successful husbands, productive citizens, and employers are employed by their own people. I charge you with that. And that is the question of economics. The major question of the 21st century will be an economic question. This was written in 1986, the 20th century. 1986, the 20th century. He said the question for the 21st century would be a question of economics. Are we not questioning economics in the 21st century? See, sometimes we don't realize when our prophets come. Sometimes we don't realize when we're being prophesized to. But we think somebody who wears African garment is all kumbaya, coochie crunchy. We don't want to hear it because we can't stand being black. But what would happen if we started listening to people like Dr. Kunjufu or Dr. Claude Anderson or Dr. Neely Fuller? What happens if we start listening to people like them? We got one living amongst us and we still don't listen to him. It's crazy. It's crazy. That is the economic question of the 21st century. That is. To be most succinct, the major question of the 21st century will be, how many people do you employ? How many people do you employ? You don't have to be employed. You don't have to employ a whole bunch, but employ somebody. Employ someone. Trust me, it's a good feeling. You may not like your money going out the window. I don't like to see my money disappear. But when I know it may not be much, but I know that I'm doing something, I feel good. I may not be able to replace their full-time job, but to know that I'm doing something makes me feel good. When I got somebody that comes through my training program and they have no work experience and I train them so that they can become employable, to know that I'm doing something feels good. So how many people do you employ? The same question will be posed to the black middle class and a Du Bois talented 10th. W.E.B. Du Bois, he was so big on going to school, getting an education, becoming employable. To those kind of people, and they exist. Some people like to group me in that category, but no, I'm with the people. Don't let the education fool you. I'm with the people. The same question will be to them. How many do you employ? Maybe the reason why African American adults sell their future. Maybe the reason that African American adults sell their future. Do you hear how powerful that is? Sell their future. They don't even wait for it to happen. They just sell it away. It's because they don't employ their future. Maybe African American adults sell their future because they don't employ their future. That's all I have for you for this chapter. I told y'all it was a very depressing chapter, but it's the truth. It is the truth. Do something. Own something. Give back in some way. Not everybody is called to be an employer. It is a hard job to be an employer. I got so much stress on me. I need an assistant to make sure I don't forget to run payroll. It's a lot of stress, especially when you got stress of your personal life and your business. It's a lot of stress. So I'm not saying that everybody has to come to be an employer, but do something. Do something. Grab somebody up and mentor them. Make sure you see it all the way through. Make sure you can give them the skills that they need so that they can build. I love you guys. I love you guys always. So I'll see you guys on Monday at 9 p.m. with the next chapter. Somebody asked me, what is the next book? I am caught between two books. There was one book that I saw. I forgot the name of it, about hustling, but not hustling how you thinking, hustling to survive. But I'm really leaning toward Powernomics. I'm searching for a book that would be equally as good and more readily applicable, like something that you can apply right now. I'm looking for that. But as of today, it'll be Powernomics. If I change it by Monday, I will let you guys know. I just want something that people can start applying to their lives today, because we cannot keep at a standstill. I know so many of my brothers and sisters are ready for the next level. They're ready to set up real things for the next generation. They just need to know how to do it. And I want to start helping you guys learn the how to do it. I love you guys always. I'll speak to you on Monday. Have a blessed night. And don't forget to wish me a happy birthday tomorrow.